The stars above the shattered moon of Venkarith were quiet, silent, cold, and shining like the eyes of ancient gods. They watched everything below, especially the massive star station floating in perfect orbit. The station was beautiful, made of silver and gold alloys, with banners of two great empires flying side by side, the Azarine Dominion and the Galactic Concord. Inside that station, deep in the royal halls of diplomacy, something important was happening. Something dangerous, eh? Wedding Princess Varela Azarine stood in front of the ceremonial mirror, dressed in the blood-red robes of her people. Her long silver hair was braided tightly behind her head, showing the sharp tattoos of her royal bloodline. Her skin was smooth and dark blue, her eyes glowing softly like two violet suns. She looked calm. She always looked calm. But inside her a storm raged. This was not a love story. This was politics. Her mother, the High Empress of Azarine, ordered the marriage to stop the upcoming war with the Concord. Varela had no choice. Her people obeyed the Empress. Even she, the only daughter, could not refuse. She was to be married to a human, a species so young that most in the Dominion still called them dirt walkers, from their planet Earth. Weak bodies, wild emotions, no honor, no control. Virela ... knew better. She had studied them. She had seen their war history. She had watched secret records from the Battle of Blackreach, where a single human fleet held back an invasion for 7 days with only stolen tech and desperation. She had read their poets, their soldiers, the rebels, and now one of them would be her husband. She was supposed to feel insulted instead. She was curious. Captain Elias Cross adjusted his ceremonial collar in front of the mirror. It was tight. Too tight. The suit had been made by Zarin tailors who didn't understand that humans needed to breathe when they walked. First they marry me off, he muttered. Then they try to strangle me with fashion. Second in command. Lieutenant Rishi Talwar laughed behind him.
Maybe they just want to see how long you last.
You're the first human to marry into their royal family, after all. I'm not marrying for love, Rishi, Elias said. This is to stop a war. Shrugged. Peace is peace. You've done worse things for the fleet. Elias looked at his own eyes in the mirror. Brown, tired, human. He didn't feel like a groom. He felt like a man walking into a trap. But there was no backing out now. This marriage held millions of lives would be saved. Planets would survive. Children would grow up under sunlight, not fire. So he stood tall. He was a human. Humans didn't break under pressure. The ceremonial hall was built like a cathedral of stars. The ceiling showed a live map of the galaxy above, spinning slowly. Rows of diplomats, warlords, and nobles sat silently on each side. Some wore armor. Others wore long cloaks of glowing fabric. None smiled. This was not a celebration. This was a deal. The Empress of Azarine sat high above on her floating throne, watching like a hawk. The human president sat beside her, stiff and unsure. In the center of the hall stood Princess Varela. Then Elias entered. He walked slowly, his hands behind his back, his boots echoing against the polished crystal floor. Everyone turned.
Oh.
Most looked at him like he was a pet that had wandered in by accident. Some laughed softly. Varela turned her head and smiled. Not a soft, romantic smile. No, this was something else. A sharp smile. A dangerous smile she recognized. Something in him, Elias saw it. He stopped in front of her and gave the proper bow. Princess, Captain, she said, her voice calm and rich. So you are the one they chose. Looks like it. You expected someone else? I expected. Fangs Elias said honestly. Virela raised one perfect eyebrow. I expected chains. The priestess stepped forward. She began the joining ritual, speaking in both languages. Her voice echoed across the hall, ancient and powerful. As she spoke, golden lights circled around Elias and Varela, binding them. In a soft ring of energy, do you swear, the priestess said, to join as one in the name of peace? I swear, Elias said, his voice steady. I swear, Varela said, her eyes never leaving his. The lights burned brighter, then faded. It was done. They were married. The hall did not cheer. It was not that kind of marriage. Later, the private royal quarters, Varela stood with Elias in silence. They were alone for the first time. No celebration, Elias noted. Our people do not drink to slavery, Varela said. You think you're a slave? I think we both are, she replied. Tied by duty, watched by spies, used by leaders, who smile while sharpening knives. Elias looked out the window. The stars outside blinked slowly. He sighed. I didn't want this. I don't like playing politics. But you are good at war. Yes. Then you will need to stay sharp, Captain Cross, she said. Because this piece is thin. It's very thin. And many in my court already. Plan your death. Elias turned. And what about you, Princess? Planning it too. Varela smiled again. This time it was softer, sadder. No, she said. I plan to use you, comforting. Not like that, she said, walking closer. I saw you at Blackreach. You fought without hope. You stayed when others ran. I smiled today, not because I wanted a human husband, but because I wasn't what you expected. Because you are exactly what I expected, she said. And that makes you dangerous. Maybe even useful, Elias chuckled. Well, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me in months. He stood there, two enemies forced into peace, now bound by law. But something passed between them. Not love. Not yet understanding. In a galaxy full of betrayal and war, they might be the only ones who saw the truth. The peace was fake. The enemies were still hidden, and their marriage was just the beginning. But if they played it right, they could change everything. The royal city ship Valkyrist moved through deep space like a silent shark. Covered in golden armor, built across generations, it was a floating empire. It held gardens, towers, military hangars, libraries, and the palace of the Azorian Dominion. And now, it had a human guest, Captain Elias Cross. Stepped off the shuttle and looked up at the glowing arches of Valkyrist S entrance. The air smelled different here, cooler, sharper, laced with something metallic. Dozens of guards in black armor stood around him, eyes cold. None bowed. At his side, Princess Varela Azarine walked with slow, royal steps. People moved out of her way. No one dared to meet her gaze. But Elias noticed something else. No one smiled. This was not a welcome. This was a warning. The palace inside was like walking through a dragon's mouth, beautiful, sharp, and deadly. Every hallway curved like a serpent. The walls were covered in carvings of past wars. Spears of light floated near the ceiling. The palace seemed alive, watching. Varela led Elias into a long dining hall. A table stretched across the center, filled with nobles, commanders, and high advisors of the Dominion. The moment Elias entered, conversation stopped. Every pair of glowing alien eyes turned toward him. They stared at the human in their royal house like he was a worm crawling on silk. Be careful, Varela whispered. These are not friends. Some would rather die than see peace with your kind, noted Elias said, nodding. I'll keep my smile short. Varela took her seat at the head of the table. Elias sat beside her as custom demanded. No one offered him food or drink. Then, a tall man in golden robes stood up. His head was shaved, and his voice was cold. I am Lord Maltorith, Master of Strategy. Welcome, human. I trust your stay will be brief. Elias gave a small smile. Long as peace stays alive, I'll be staying right here. Few nobles chuckled darkly. Another noble, a woman with long white hair and cybernetic eyes, leaned forward. Tell us, Captain Cross, what makes a human worthy of marrying into royal blood? Elias didn't flinch. Surviving. Surviving, she repeated. Yes, he said calmly. Surviving wars, plagues, rebellions, starvation, and now surviving politics. A few eyebrows rose. Varela said nothing, but she watched Elias with new interest. Later that night, Elias returned to his assigned quarters. The room was large, decorated with glowing symbols of Azoran history, but it was cold, too clean, like a prison made of gold. As he stepped inside, his instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. He turned quickly and ducked. A blade flew past. His head cutting a piece of his collar, Elias rolled to the side, grabbed a chair and smashed it into the shadowy figure that charged at him. The attacker moved fast, almost silent. But Elias had trained for this. He dodged, punched, and finally pulled out the small shock blade hidden in his boot. He pressed it to the attacker's neck. The lights came on. The attacker was a young Azarene Manthan, skilled and furious. "Why?" Elias asked, panting. "I was told you'd be weak," the man spat. "Then you were told wrong." Before more questions could be asked, guards arrived. The attacker was dragged away. Hours later, Varela stormed into the room. "You were attacked?" "Yep. Are you injured?" "Just scratched," Elias said. "Was he one of yours?" She looked. "Furious, no. But someone in this palace gave him permission." Elias sat down. "Then I'll sleep with one eye open." "You already do," Varela said, and for the first time, there was a hint of respect in her voice. The next day, the two stood in the Hall of Stars, where war decisions were made. Maps floated in the air, stars, fleets, colonies. Varela met with her top advisors, and Elias was invited to listen. He noticed something quickly. Every plan discussed assumed one thing: that the peace wouldn't last. They were already preparing for war. Quietly, secretly. Elias waited until the advisors left. "You're preparing for war," he said. "I'm preparing for survival," Varela replied. "But you married me for peace." "I married you too by time." Elias folded his arms. "And what if peace could be real?" Varela looked at him, her expression hard. "Then prove it." Later that evening, Elias took a walk through the lower levels of Valcrast. He met with workers, young soldiers, cooks, ordinary Azarenes, who didn't sit at royal tables. Some of them looked surprised to see a human among them. Some were curious. Few smiled. Elias told them stories of Earth, of deserts and oceans, of old cities and mountain winds. He listened to their stories too, and slowly something changed. Not everyone hated him, in fact. Many had no reason to, only the powerful ones did. That night, Elias and Varela met again on the high balcony. "Saw you talking to the workers," she said. "I saw you letting your guards stay back," he replied. Silence passed between them. "We are both trapped in a cage of knives," Varela said softly. "Then maybe it's time we build a key." She looked at him, really looked at him this time. "You're not what I expected." "And you're more than I hoped for," Elias replied honestly. They weren't lovers, not yet, but they were something stronger. Allies. The next day, a message arrived. It was from the Galactic Concord, a secret project, a joint research station, an ancient asteroid. It's once sealed and forbidden Tomb 44, and they were invited to visit it as a gesture of trust. Elias frowned. "Why now?" Vrilla narrowed her eyes. "Because something is about to happen." The stars were quiet again. But Elias Cross had learned not to trust silence. Captain Cross and Princess Varela stood inside a silver diplomatic cruiser, flying through the black void toward a strange destination, Tomb 44, a forbidden asteroid once hidden from all maps. Neither human nor Azarene had dared enter it for centuries. Until now, this visit, arranged only days after their political marriage, was being called a gesture of peace, a wedding gift. But Elias knew better. In war and in politics, nothing was ever just a gift. Inside the cruiser's command room, Elias studied the live feed of Tomb 44. The asteroid didn't look special. A floating gray rock about the size of a small moon, cracked and lifeless. But looks could lie. "Why is it called a tomb?" Elias asked. Varela stood beside him, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "'Cause centuries ago, one of our deep space science fleets went missing near it. No one ever came back. And yet here we are," Elias muttered. "We received a message," she explained, "from inside the tomb. A signal, in both our languages. That's not creepy at all." She looked at him. "Or a test. Either way. We go together," Elias smirked. "Finally, a proper honeymoon." Varela ignored the joke, but her lip twitched slightly as they docked near the asteroid's surface. The landing bay opened with a soft hiss. The lights inside were still working, pale blue and flickering. It was impossible. This place had been abandoned for more than 300 years, and yet systems were active. "This doesn't feel right," Elias said. "Fear is logical," Varela replied, holding a small energy blade. Together, they entered the main hallway, followed by 2 guards, one human, one Azaran. Their boots echoed through the dust-covered floors. The walls were lined with old screens, symbols from an age before the current empires even existed. Then, suddenly a voice spoke. "Welcome, Princess Varela Azaran. Welcome, Captain Elias. Cross, you are expected." They all froze. The voice was soft, artificial, but sounded oddly human. "Who said that?" Elias asked. "I did," the voice said again. "I am Archivist 44, guardian of this tomb." "What is this place?" Varela demanded. "A vault," said the voice. "Of forgotten things, lost wars, buried truths." Elias glanced at Varela. "Still think this is a gift?" She shook her head. "No, this is a warning." They followed the voice deeper into the asteroid. The lights guided them, turning on ahead and shutting behind them. Each chamber they passed showed more strange things: broken alien machines, skeletons of creatures neither had seen before, and walls painted with scenes of a war from another time. In one chamber, Elias stopped. There on a pedestal sat a weapon. Not just any weapon, a human energy rifle. Model XR-9, used during Earth's first war against the stars. "Impossible," Elias whispered. "This tech is less than 100 years old, but this place is over 300, Varela added. "Someone's been here recently." They looked at each other. A chill ran through both. Something bigger was going on. Finally, they reached a central chamber. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a round room filled with floating holograms. Images of war, of fire raining from the sky, of Azaran ships fighting with human ships. Elias stepped forward. "These battles haven't happened yet." The voice was low. "They are predictions," No Archivist 44 said, speaking once more. "They are warnings of a war that comes if peace fails." Elias frowned. "Who built you?" "I was made by both your ancestors," Archivist said. "When humans and Azarine first met, long before your governments, back when both sides wanted peace." "That can't be," Varela said. "It was hidden," Archivist replied. "Covered by time, erased by rulers who wanted war." Elias's jaw tightened. "So this place. It proves that we were allies once." As Varela turned to him slowly. "If we show this to both governments, ... They won't believe us," Elias finished. "Then we must force them to believe." Archivist's lights flickered. "I can transfer the full archive to a sealed data crystal. But once taken, the tomb will shut forever." "Why?" Varela asked. "Because truth is dangerous." As Archivist prepared the crystal, alarms suddenly rang through the asteroid. "Warning, unauthorized presence detected." Elias spun around. "We're not alone." The guards raised their weapons. Then blaster fire exploded through the hallway. 3 cloaked figures attacked. Fast and deadly. One of them fired at Elias. He ducked, rolled, and shot back with a stun pistol. The other hit the Azarine guard. With a blade, the guard fell injured. "Cover the princess," Elias shouted. Virela fought like a storm. She moved with grace and speed, cutting down one attacker with a glowing blade. Elias took another down with a blast to the leg. The last attacker tried to run, but Varela caught him with a throw. He hit the wall hard and groaned. They pulled off his mask. Elias's eyes narrowed. "Human." Varela's voice was cold. From the Concord, one of her guards knelt beside the man. "He carries a neural disruptor. He was here to erase Archivist." Elias clenched his fists. "Both sides want this place buried. They fear peace more than war," Varela said bitterly. Archivist's voice returned. "The crystal is ready." Elias picked it up carefully. It glowed red. "So," he said, "now what?" Now we make a choice, Varela said. We return, and we expose the truth, or we hide it, and keep playing the game. Elias looked at her. For the first time since they met, she looked unsure. He took a step closer. You don't have to carry it alone. She met his gaze. Neither do you. They returned to Valkrist under heavy guard. No one knew what had happened. They told their governments it was a standard inspection, but in private. Inside a locked chamber, Elias and Varela watched the contents of the crystal on a private screen. It showed humans and Azarenes fighting side by side, fighting something else, an ancient enemy neither side remembered, and at the end of the file, message, they will return. Prepare. Together. Varela turned slowly to Elias. The wedding was not just for peace, it was for survival, Elias said. She nodded. The real war is coming. That night, the stars over Valkrist didn't feel so quiet anymore, not to Elias and not to Varela, because now they both knew the truth. They were no longer just allies. They were the galaxy's only hope. The crystal from Tomb 44 sat locked inside a cold metal vault deep within the heart of the royal ship. Crest. Princess Varela stood alone in the chamber, watching its red glow shine through a transparent shield. It looked small, harmless, but the truth inside it could change everything behind her. The door opened with a soft hiss. Captain Elias's cross walked in quietly. He didn't salute or speak, just stood beside her. You haven't slept, he said. Virella didn't look away. From the crystal, if I sleep, someone might steal it. Or worse, I might change my mind. Elias folded his arms. About sharing it. She nodded slowly. Once we reveal what's in that crystal about the ancient war, the old alliance, the real enemy, nothing will stay the same. Ilias's voice was calm but firm. It's already changing. Look at us, a human and an Azarene, standing side by side, protecting the truth. She turned to him at last, her golden eyes steady. Will Earth listen? No, Elias said. But the people might, and the Dominion. They'll resist, she said. My uncle will fight this truth with everything he has. Then we start with those who still listen, Elias said. Show it to the right ones first. Varela placed her hand on the glass vault. We only get one chance. Elias nodded. Then we make it count. That evening, in the Royal Council chamber, Varela stood before a crowd of powerful nobles, military leaders, and advisors. The room was quiet, tense. All eyes were on her. Elias stood behind her, flanked by 2 guards, one human, one Azarene, a symbol of unity. But many in the room didn't like it. Varela raised her voice. We have found something, she said. Something buried in the dark for centuries. A message from our ancestors. And a warning. Gasps spread through the room. Lord Maltareth stood. This is a trick, he said. The humans planted this to manipulate us. Varela glared at him. It was built by Azarene hands. Her own language is burned into its metal. Another noble rose. Even if it is true, why reveal it now? Elias stepped forward. Because your enemies know it too. Silence fell. Then Varela tapped a small control. A hologram burst into the air scenes from the crystal. Glowing images of old battles. Humans and Azarenes fighting side by side against a third force. Something dark, ancient, and inhuman. They called it the Devourer, Varela explained. It nearly ended both our races. But we stopped. It together. Whispers filled the room. Then Elias showed the last part, the message they will return. Prepare. Together. When the hologram ended, the chamber was completely silent. But not for long. That night, rebellion began. Explosions shook Valkrist from within. Loyalists to Varela tried to protect her. But her enemies had moved faster. Armed soldiers, some wearing noble colors, stormed parts of the palace. Demanding the crystal be destroyed, Elias and Varela ran through smoke-filled halls. Dodging blaster fire? They've already planned this, Elias shouted. They feared the truth for years, Varela replied. They just needed a reason to strike. Suddenly, a beam blast exploded near them. A wall cracked, throwing both of them to the ground. Elias stood first and pulled her up. "You okay, Mazarine?" she said, brushing off dust. "We don't break that easy." They ran toward the vault room. They had to protect the crystal, but when they reached it, the vault was open. Inside, 3 soldiers stood with their backs turned, weapons ready. One of them held the red crystal. "Drop it," Varela said, raising her blade. The lead soldier turned. It was General Kareth, commander of the Azarine 7th Fleet, and Varela's mother's old rival. "I'm sorry, Princess," he said coldly. "This truth cannot live." "You're not protecting the Dominion," she replied. "You're protecting your own power." Kareth's eyes narrowed. "You were once a warrior, not a dreamer." "I still am," she said, and lunged. The room exploded into chaos. Elias ducked, rolled, and fired at the nearest soldier, stunning him. Varela fought Kareth with her blade, striking fast and hard. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed. The 3rd soldier raised a pulse grenade. Straight at the crystal? No. Elias shouted. He fired. The grenade dropped harmlessly. Ver knocked Kareth to the ground, blade at his throat. But he just laughed. "You can't stop it. The old ways are stronger than truth." "Not anymore," Varela said, and stunned him. Minutes later, the alarm quieted. Loyalist forces arrived, retook control of the ship, and arrested the rebels. The vault was sealed again, and the crystal was safe for now. Varela and Elias stood alone again, breathing hard. "We need to get off this ship," Elias said. She looked at him. "Where would we go?" He smiled slightly. "To the place no Empire controls, where the people still believe in change." Varela nodded. Earth. 2 days later, a hidden shuttle left Vokrist under secret codes. Only a few knew of its journey. Aboard it, a princess, a captain, and a future neither. Side expected. As they approached Earth orbit, Elias stared at the blue and green planet. His home. But it felt different now. "You nervous?" Varela asked. "Only if they shoot us down," he said. She gave him a rare smile. The Earth Embassy met them at a classified spaceport. A few brave leaders from several human factions stood. Waiting, Elias stepped forward. "We bring something that will change everything." And then they showed them the crystal. Inside the briefing room, hours passed. Files were read. Images played again and again, some believed. Some didn't, but all understood one thing. This wasn't just a story, it was a warning. At the end of the meeting, an old general stood and spoke. "If this is true, then we've all been fools," Elias replied. "We've just been kept in the dark. Now it's time to turn on the lights." Varela added, "The real enemy is not each other. It's what's coming next." The human leaders exchanged looks. "We'll prepare," the general said. Together. That night, Elias and Varela stood on a balcony overlooking Earth's surface. City lights sparkled below. The stars above seemed calm, at least for now. "We did it," Elias said softly. Varela didn't smile. "No, we only began. You think the Dominion will strike back?" "Of course," she said, "but now we have more than secrets. We have allies." Elias looked at her. "You once said you married me to buy time." "I did, and now." Turned to him fully. "Now I'm glad it was you," he smiled. "Me too." And for a moment, under alien stars and human skies, they stood side by side, not just as husband and wife, but as something more hope. The stars above Earth were quiet again, but Elias, Cross no longer trusted quiet skies. It had been 1 month since he and Princess Varela revealed the truth hidden in the red crystal. 1 month since Earth and parts of the Azarian Dominion learned of the ancient alliance and the enemy waiting in the darkness of space. Now, something was stirring. Shadow was moving across the edge of the galaxy, and it was waking up. Elias stood in Earth's orbit, aboard the new Unity station built together by human and Azarine engineers. It was a symbol of the future. But today, that future felt uncertain. He watched the hologram of a ship's black box recording. Static blurred the screen, but the message was clear. Screaming, alarms. A final sentence before the feed cut. It came from the dark. It wasn't alive, but it was watching. Elias turned to the others in the war room. "We lost 2 scout ships near the Omega Rim," he said. "Both gone within seconds. No trace. No survivors."
Below.
General Holloway of Earth folded his arms. "Pirates," Varela answered, standing beside Elias. "This matches the patterns from the tomb's data. The energy signatures. The sudden vanishing. The ancient enemy is moving." And the room shifted uncomfortably. Others whispered. Many still didn't believe. "Let's say you're right," one admiral said. "What do they want?" Elise's jaw tightened. "To finish what they started. To consume everything. Like they did in the old war. And if we don't stand together again," Varela added, "we'll fall alone." Later that night, Varela walked alone through the gardens of Unity Station. Fake stars twinkled above the dome ceiling. A gentle wind blew through artificial trees, but her mind was far from peaceful. She had received a message. From home. Her uncle, Supreme Chancellor Malvith of the Azoran Dominion, had declared her a traitor. She was now marked for death. The message ended with one line: "You chose the humans. Now they will be your grave." She felt no sadness, only fire. She had chosen truth over comfort, unity over fear, Elias over her throne. And now she was ready to fight. She heard soft footsteps behind her. "Elias, you saw the message?" he asked. She nodded. "They will come. Let them," Elias said.
It.
"Not the only ones preparing." He showed her a small HOLO map, human and Azaran ships, loyal to their cause, forming a fleet near the edge of neutral space. A joint strike group. The first true alliance in over 100 years. They call it Hope Squadron, Elias, said Varela, raised an eyebrow. "Did you name it?" "I wanted to call it Doomfist," he smirked. "But the diplomats said no." She smiled, but it faded quickly. "Hope isn't enough. We need something more." He nodded slowly. "Then we find it." Their search led them to an ancient signal sent from a lost Azarine colony called Courthell. Destroyed over 200 years ago in a solar flare, or so history claimed. But the signal was clear. Old tech, Azarine language. And one word repeated: awakened. They took a small team, a stealth ship, and flew deep into the dead zone. Courthill was no longer a graveyard. It was alive, or at least something inside it was. The surface was silent. Cracked buildings, rusted towers, and machines half swallowed by dust. But beneath the surface, deep in the ruins, lights still flickered. Varela and Elias led the way, blasters drawn. Walking carefully. "This place is wrong," Elias said. "Too quiet." "I feel it too," Varela whispered. Then a shadow moved across the wall. Elias spun, aimed, but found nothing. They reached a large underground hall. At its center was a glowing orb, pulsing with a strange light. Around it, machines hummed with life. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. "We warned you once. You buried the truth. Now we return." Dozens of red lights appeared in the shadow's eyes. Tall, insect-like machines stepped forward. Each moved like it was half alive, half tech. No emotion, no mercy. Elias raised his weapon. "Company." One of the machines spoke in both Azaran. In English: "You are not ready. Your kind still fights each other. You are weak. You are prey." Varela stepped forward. "We are not afraid." "Then prove it." And then they attacked. Blasters lit up the room. Elias rolled behind a pillar, fired 2 shots, and ducked. Varela spun through the air, slicing through one machine with her blade. The machines were fast, strong. One hit Elias with a backhanded strike, sending him into the wall. His armor cracked. Another lunged at Varela, pinning her down. She screamed. Struggling, then a blast hit the machine from behind. Elias, bleeding but standing, fired again and again. He reached for her hand. "We're not dying here." Together, they made a run for the orb. As they reached it, Varela stabbed her blade. into the power core. A surge of energy exploded out, stunning the machines. They didn't wait. They ran back aboard the ship, panting and bruised. They watched the enemy world burn in the distance. Court Hell was lost, but now they knew the truth. The enemy had never been fully defeated. They had only slept. Now they were awake, and they were testing humanity and Azorian strength. When they returned to Unity Station, the Council listened. Finally, truly listened. The enemy had a name: the Silence. A machine species created to destroy war itself by destroying all who made it. They had erased dozens of old civilizations in the past. Now, they had come for humanity and the Azaran again. Elias and Varela stood together before the council. "We cannot afford doubt," Elias said. "We cannot afford fear," Varela added. "We fight now," they said in one voice, "or we fall later." The alliance was formed that day. Humans, Azarenes, rebels, scientists, pilots, soldiers together. Hope Squadron grew to become a fleet, and Elias and Varela, once strangers, once enemies, were now its heart. In the final moments of calm before war, Elias looked out into the stars. Varela joined him. "Still wish you hadn't married me?" he asked. She smirked. "Are you kidding? You're the only one crazy enough to follow me into a war with machines from the dark?" He laughed. "That's love, I guess." She leaned in slightly. "No," she whispered. "That's hope." Stood there, hand in hand, watching the stars. Not in fear, but ready. Because the war had just begun, and this time humanity was not alone.